Hey, listeners. So we had a little bit of an issue with this recording. Was some audio hiccups. My audio, Steven's audio, was really slow. For some reason, very deep, and had some hiccups. I don't know what the issue was, but I have not been able to reproduce the issue. But I did go through all of my dialogue, and I kind of changed the pitch a little bit, so it's a little bit more, sexy to the ears. So I do apologize for that. We do love you. If you hear my son behind me, I'm sorry, but we're all on lockdown, and that's what we do. We live on top of each other. I love you, and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dual Screens podcast. This is episode 18. I am Steven Fontana, and with me, as always, he is Andy Esemekis. How are you, Andy?
I want you to mark the day in the calendar. If I get this virus, today, the day I contracted it, there was a dude that was openly coughing in the air while I was walking my dog, about half an hour ago.
Oh, no.
And it was a literal screaming match. I was like, sir, can you at least cover your mouth?
Jeez.
There was like 10 or 12 coughs, like huge coughs, like into the open.
Sounds like
And
a doom enemy.
Yeah, I was like walking right past him. I was like, this is it. This is my Gwyneth Paltrow moment. This is where it all starts.
Oh, boy.
All right, so we'll keep an
But
eye
aside
on
from
it.
that, I feel great.
Yeah,
fine.
I guess we'll keep an eye on
Check
it.
back in 2 weeks.
COVID-19 watch. We're doing all right here in the quarantine, the Fontana quarantine household. We're fairly. I mean, we're all feeling well now. My brother tested negative at his household, so that's good news, I guess. Sort of. Kind of was hoping he would have had it and gotten over with, so he had the antibodies. But whatever. We'll just hide for the next 6 months. It's no big deal. With us this week, we have Michael Hammond. He's the project marketing specialist of Big Blue Bubble. He's currently working on Foregone, a fast and fluid 2D action platformer packed with legendary loot and stunning, and I mean stunning, pixel art. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very nice description. Very stunning. I like to hear that. That's good.
Stunning.
Happy to hear you guys are good over there in New York.
And how are you doing north of the border?
It's pretty obviously we're doing the same thing, just kind of everyone's staying away, staying in their homes, but
Sure.
I'm out here in suburbia, so it's pretty chill out here, and that you go for a walk, you might see one or two people and everyone's doing the friendly Canadian nod as you pass and saying hello. But yeah, no, I will say right before this though, I was taking my dog outside and there was also a dude just outside the fence who was hacking up a lung, and I was like, oh my god, he has corona. Can the fence become contaminated?
Stop the coughing.
So, yeah.
Stop doing it.
It's funny now. The cough is one of those things that as soon as someone does it, you're like, oh no.
Here it comes.
Get me a hazmat suit and
Yes, exactly.
a gallon of Listerine or something.
Yeah, God forbid you're the one that has a cough. You're just like,
Oh, I know. Or
Yeah,
if you have a tickle in your throat or something, and it's just like, no, I swear it was.
I was ready to start downing Drano when I came back from that walk.
Oh, God. Here
It's
it comes.
what's in the house? What do we have? Purple stuff, Sunny D. Drano.
Drano, that's the one. For those of you that are new to the Dual Screens podcast, this is an interview show where Andy and I bring on an industry guest to tell us their story and to discuss their latest project. Everyone in the gaming industry, be it a programmer, an artist, a voice actor, they all have a story to tell, and this is their platform to do so. The Dual Screens podcast posts each and every Thursday on your podcast service of choice, including iHeartRadio and Spotify. You can also find everything we do on youtube.com/DualScreensTV, and of course, everything on DualScreens.com. And when we aren't interviewing awesome video game devs, Andy and I also host the Dual Screens Gamescast, which records every single Sunday on twitch.tv/dual-screens streams, and that's where we pit the hottest news up against each other, and we declare the biggest winners and losers of the week. And this week, we do have a guest host with us, Andy. We have a guest host.
I know. Look at us.
Joining us is Mr. Badbit himself, Joseph Moran. He's coming to join us. He did a Patreon bonus episode with us a couple of months ago. We love Joe. He's a great dude. And he's going to come and just, hang out and discuss the news. We're all kind of bored sitting in our houses, so everybody's looking for more podcasts and shows to do and streams and all that fun stuff. So he will be joining us, and it'll be a great time. Again, those shows post each and every Monday. The Gamescast posts each and every Monday on this very same channel, so you don't have to go anywhere else to find all of our podcasts. They're all on the same channel. And the final episode of Andy Explains It All should be recorded within the next couple of days and will be going up for you as well. And that's a show where Andy explains something to me that I know nothing about, and I'm still in the dark as to what the final episode is going to be about. He has not told me. I'm assuming he's waiting for us to hit the record button. If you want to support us on Patreon, you could do so by going to patreon.com/NDS podcast, just like our Patreon producer, Bolton the Apprentice Nestler. We cannot continue to grow without all of your support, so I know times are tight, money is tight. If you can't support us financially, that is fine. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. It helps the show out tremendously. Tell your friends about the show. Listen, a lot of you listeners, a lot of people out there, we're in multiple groups, Facebook groups, or we have friends on Twitter or Instagram that we all listen to different podcasts. And every once in a while, I would say once a week, somebody says, "Hey, does anybody have a new podcast that they listen to? I want a new podcast. Now that we're stuck in our homes, I want something to listen to." Tell them about this show. Tell them about the Dual Screens Podcast Network. It would help us out tremendously. And that's going to do it for the rigmarole. That wasn't too bad. That was a good one.
That was your best yet.
It was
very
concise.
professional. You knew it all.
I did. It helps that's in front of me, but I pretty much just use it just to make sure I don't forget something. But I think it went well. Michael, how the hell are you? I haven't seen you since PAX East, since we all just swapping that Corona spit, standing way too close to each other.
Yes.
How have things been going since PAX? How was your PAX?
My PAX was phenomenal. We were at the Indie Mega booth, so that was really sweet to be a part of that, because that's always the thing I like to go check out. So actually being a part of it was very cool this year. But yeah, since then, it feels like that was like literally like a year ago at this point, but when it was like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I went on vacation briefly where I traveled to the States, and while I traveled, that's when things went crazy, and the prime minister was like, "Hey, if you guys are gone, you should probably come home." So he came home and cut the vacation short. But I'm doing well. Everyone's healthy over here, so can't complain.
Where in the States did you guys go?
We went to Myrtle Beach. We've been there, I think, 3 of the last 4 years. My wife's a teacher, so whenever it's like March break or like spring break, I think that's what they call it down there, we usually go to Myrtle Beach. So yeah, that was the trip this year, and cut short, unfortunately. But
I think that's going to be where I take the family once it's time to take the family somewhere. Like right now, I'm just dreading those family vacations because it's just stress upon stress upon stress that I don't need. But I feel like a Myrtle Beach would be a good.
It's great.
Middle ground,
Mini
or like
golf.
the Poconos or something. Yeah.
I
Hell
think
yeah.
first thing you should just get it from your actual family for a little while, Stephen, because it's being cooped up all these weeks. Just take
This
a
is my
mini vacation
escape.
for yourself.
Every
Right,
night
so
that
an
we
hour every
record.
week.
Yes.
Yes, I understand.
Multiple hours actually.
We
Sure.
we do multiple shows, but yeah, it's been a thing. It's certainly been a thing. So Michael, Foregone won my game of show. It was my game.
Well,
of
thank
PAX.
you.
Obviously, you didn't listen to that fucking episode, but whatever.
I did.
I'm just joshing.
You know how many things I listen to? Half my job is just like listening to, watching streams, seeing what people are saying.
Yes, that was definitely my pick. I thought that I was actually surprised. Like, I wasn't sure what you guys were working on. Now, we actually met last PAX.
Yes, last PAX.
At just a random meetup for like kind of funny, like karaoke or whatever. And
Yeah, it was just down the way from us.
it was weird, and then we found out that like my wife's family knows you in Canada.
Yeah,
like,
it was very weird coincidence of the one place you knew, it's like that's like a small town that I grew up in. So.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those situations where it's like, oh, you're from Canada? Do you know this guy? Like, not knowing that Canada's gigantic.
Yeah.
And I kind of did it ironically, and you're like, wait, what?
Like,
Yeah, it was very funny of just like narrowing in on. It's like, well, yeah, I know this place. And it's like, do you know this person? It's like, yeah, I went to school with them.
Oh, the
So-
world is such a small place. But
So
Mhm.
Foregone, give our listeners what's the pitch? What is Foregone?
Yeah, so kind of like what you were saying, 2D action platform looter. That's usually what I say. If you need to kind of visualize what that is, we're kind of trying to make like a 2D Diablo platformer.
Mhm.
That's how I, easily try to explain it there. Definitely has the look and feel influenced by Dead Cells, going for that 3D, 2D, where everything is actually made in 3D, which allows us to make it like really smooth, and that's what made Dead Cells feel so good. And then we have that pixel aesthetic, so lots of people see it and then go like, this reminds me of Dead Cells, and it's like, yeah, totally get why you get that comparison, but we trying to go for something a little different. And yeah, so the whole thing's handcrafted. There's no procedural generation. You're playing through, progressing. You keep your weapons when you die, and there's kind of a penalty similar to Dark Souls in that like you lose currency that you have when you die, but otherwise you keep everything.
Yeah, and you know what? That was one of the things that really attracted me, or something I really liked about it, was that it didn't feel too punishing. I felt like you were trying, like the game tries to make you good at it. It tries to make you progress.
Mhm.
It's not trying to stop you from completing it. It's not trying to piss you off or to quote unquote get good. It's more about combat flow. It's more about your exploration. It's more about getting that loot and kind of just you want to play with it. You want to play the game because you feel that everything you're doing is fun. It's not necessarily going to piss you off, and that kind of thing. That's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we do want to have some layer of challenge there, but we don't want to just like be beating you over the head like forever and ever. It's like we want you to be able to, progress and get stronger, so that when you re-encounter those difficult enemies, you're now have the knowledge of like, oh, this is kind of the tells that this enemy has, and the best sort of offense against them, and then and then you're usually stronger as well. So
I was gonna call it chatty cells because the main character loves to narrate.
she likes to talk.
her,
Yes.
predicaments. And it adds a nice little layer to the whole game, because you're used to, when you see that kind of layout and format, you think, okay, it's a hack and slash. I'll just run right through, kill some shit, get my experience, level up, and move on. But
don't
she
recommend that.
stops. She stops. She's very observant of what's going on around her. She makes little comments here and there. Go into like the main character. What's her personality like, and how did you guys develop this persona for her?
Yeah, so she's supposed to be kind of like very strong, strong female protagonist within the world. She kind of volunteers to be the first of the super soldier program because there's a war going on at the time, and she's the first sort of successful version of that. And there are other super soldiers that unfortunately die, and she's kind of like the last of her kind. And yeah, she's made some mistakes in her life, things she may regret, which kind of unfold throughout the game. But she's just there trying to right the sins of the past, and ultimately do what's best for the city of Caligan.
Scandalous.
How do you strike a balance between a strong gameplay loop and a strong story or a strong narrative? Because like one of the things about Diablo for me is that it's really cheesy. I could not care any less about what's going on in that town. I just want to skip all the dialogue, kill bad guys, get the loot, see how cool and awesome powers I can unlock. How do you weave a strong narrative in that typical looter type gameplay?
Yeah, so it's definitely been something that has involved many conversations. And Sydney, the person who she's been writing the game, basically, she's been basically working like hand in hand with designers on the game, trying to. So it's not only just like, okay, here's the overall story. How can we shoehorn this in? It's like thinking about moments where interactions can happen, and then working with the design team to. It's like, okay, I think that this would be a really great opportunity to kind of have this sort of scene play out, or have this sort of interaction happen at this type of place. Is there a way that we can build either the world to kind of allow that, or in some cases make like a little cutscene that's not going to take control for 2 minutes or anything, but it's just like a quick little slice. I think that's easier to digest for some people. And but it is, it's definitely tough. I think story is something that is underestimated, how difficult it really can be, getting everything to flow properly, and also convey what you're going for without just explaining this giant diatribe or something like that, right? So it is definitely a balancing act, and that's something that we're actually focused on with some of these upcoming updates, is getting in more little opportunities to sprinkle in more backstory and lore in different little nooks and crannies of the game.
It all sounds very deliberate, like the game design. How, like, my first impression was it's gonna be another like procedural generated game, but this is all very well thought out. Everything is placed in the world for a reason. Was that always the case? Like, to design a game that was just from the moment you start out with a very intentional design, and each item and setting and set piece was all placed by you guys deliberately in the world?
Sorry about the dog in the background.
No worries.
Yeah, no. So there was a few different iterations we kind of went through. Like early on, it was the initial pitch, because the whole idea basically came out from, so at Big Blue Bubble, like if you have an idea, anybody, like it could be somebody in finance, it could be somebody in marketing, could be literally anybody at the company, you can basically put together a little pitch doc and submit it, and then like it will be reviewed by like a little committee kind of, and if it seems like a worthwhile thing to go forward with, then that's something we'll usually investigate a bit more, flesh the idea out a bit more. And so that was kind of how this came about. In its initial conception, it was much more of a traditional Metroidvania. And I think the more we kind of toyed with that, it just seemed like the market is, to a degree, like there's a ton of Metroidvania games.
Yeah, it's getting saturated now.
There's no lack of that. And so it's then, do we just want to create another Metroidvania and make it look pretty and have a story to it? There's lots of great games like that, like Hollow Knight, like Hori, right? Like, so that was one avenue we went down with. And then for a little bit, we were toying with the idea of having procedural generation to a degree in some places, but we really did like the 3D 2D stuff that Dead Cells had done. Just like we felt that game played like so well, and so the more we were going down this path, we were really like interested in investigating that kind of gameplay. And then so as soon as we were going down that path, we were like, well, we don't want to do procedural generation then, because Dead Cells did that. And so then we kind of this idea of I think it kind of was like really born out of the producer and the designer on the game loved Diablo, and for a long time they'd been like, like what if we do kind of like a looter platformer thing? And then that was toyed with, and then as we went along, it just became more and more like, yeah, I actually think that this might be a fun thing that there's not a whole lot out there, so we can kind of hopefully carve our own little niche out there. And that's kind of how it was born over time. It's an iterative process.
So
Right. Go ahead,
ahead.
Steven.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think it does take away like some of the quality when you have levels that are just designed by a computer, as opposed to someone who's behind the monitor and just placing things on their own, because it feels like an actual living, breathing world that you get more familiar and accustomed with over time. And when you have a random element, is you lose all that authenticity. And I'm really glad you guys chose that route.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like that's ultimately why we ended up going down. It was like it allows us to have these moments where the person working on the story can work in unison with the designer and with the artist to be like, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking, and we don't have to worry about like, oh well, are we going to be able to have it generate like that every time they hit that certain area, and is it going to make sense in the flow of how you've been going through? Whereas if we actually just create these set pieces and have this whole authored experience, then we can actually split it out in a way that makes sense. And so, yeah.
So you're in early access right now.
Yes.
You're at Epic Game Store. All that, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Just make sure I get my facts straight. So I don't have them in
No,
front of me. I'm going off the
you're
old
doing
brain.
Good. You're doing good.
So what is the goal of the development team to go into early access? Are you looking for just what players are naturally doing and you're just collecting that data, or are you looking for actual feedback from your player base that are going in there in early access? What's the goal here in early access?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a little bit of column C, right? It's definitely one. We were really interested in going into early access because we did want to have that kind of like community feedback loop where it's like, we think we're onto a good thing, but like a lot of early access games that I've been a part of and played, I really find that the game gets refined and you come up with a lot of ideas that, the core team might not necessarily think of, because it's only 10 brains as opposed to like 1,000 brains, right? So that was something we were really interested in, is having that community feedback. And there's already been a ton of things that that have popped up in our Discord that were like, yeah, that makes total sense. That's of course. And we have that going into the next update that's coming at the beginning of April. So that was a huge part of it. But then it is also just getting to see people play it. And it was something where it's like, I would see all the time being at shows, watching people play. And so that was always nice to have like the designers and artists there as well, seeing it, because when you're watching somebody play the game, you see so many like little points where you're like, oh, you know what, this like already one of the things is like, we feel like the tutorial level is too long. And so like, that's something that we'd like to kind of trim up a little bit. And so watching people play it through like YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that is definitely helpful for seeing things that you might not see because you've played this game now. Like, I think I've played through it, I don't know, like easily 25 times or something. I've put many hours into it. And so there's some things where it's like, oh, I'm just like, I know this part, I'm speeding through, I got to go get these 3 things, yada, yada, yada. So that was definitely also super helpful. And I know it's one of those things, as soon as somebody starts streaming or whatever, we have like a little Foregone chat where it'll be like, oh, here's a stream. And then people just have it on the background, just kind of checking in on it every once in a while. So,
well, mine's going to be very soon. I'm going to hop in there. I'm going to stream very soon.
Beautiful.
I imagine that the type of, and I don't mean feedback like people actually giving you feedback, but like the feedback that you're seeing with your eyes while observing is way different from a trade show to somebody playing in their own living room, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, definitely, if you're viewing on Twitch or YouTube, it's a bit more anonymous, and you definitely get much more, I think, like true reaction.
Yeah.
In that, like, when somebody's playing in front of you, if they don't like what they're playing, you can usually see that if they're not enjoying it, or if they're kind of checked out, you can usually see that. But like, if they have some criticisms or suggestions or whatever, they're a lot less likely, I find, to say them in person. There are some people who are like, hey, can I tell you like a suggestion or something? It's like 100%, that's why I'm here. But in a stream, it's much easier for people to like openly say things that they don't like, or give suggestions, and you have all these people in the chat also giving suggestions and stuff, right? So it is definitely much more helpful, I think, to see that. But like, being in person is great for just, getting the game out there initially, for sure. It's how you can make, the diehards and establish those initial connections with people, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not less restrained when I'm talking to a developer like on the show floor. Like this is your baby, and I'm playing with your baby, and I don't want to take a shit on your baby.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like,
as opposed to I go home and I play your game. Well, it's just a game with a faceless company or a person behind it that I can, I'm more open to be more critical about the product in that
for
sort
sure.
of setting.
No, and I think that's kind of just like human nature, where it's like,
oh yeah,
you talk to anyone, like people shit talk on Twitter all the time, and then as soon as like somebody responds back to them, they're like, well, look, I didn't actually mean it. I didn't think you were actually going to see it. And it's like, yeah, I am a human.
Like, I have feelings, damn it.
Yeah,
a person made
value.
This. So can you give an example of something that maybe you saw either somebody suggest off the cuff or something from your Discord that is going into this next update?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for instance, one of the things is, so if you've played the game or if you've seen the game, one of the things is when you jump and use a melee weapon, for instance, right now what's in there is it has the same animation for basically like if you were standing on the ground, I'm swinging the sword, right? You can still do damage and everything. It looks a little goofy, and sometimes you can't time it exactly how you want to. So one of the things that was brought up was somebody was like, it'd be great if there was an actual like animation for every weapon in the midair, and I was like, yeah, no, that makes 100% sense. Like, why not? So that was something that we've gone back and basically added additional animations for attack animations for the weapons when you're midair, and they look cool. So that's what I always say. When it looks cool, then I'm all on board with it being in the game. So that was definitely one of the things that off the top of my head comes.
Oh, there are moments where you're just like, this guy doesn't fuck. It's my fucking game. Shut up. You don't know anything.
I mean, there's definitely times, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's times where like people say things, you're like, yeah, it doesn't exactly work that way.
Yep,
like
and mute.
Yeah, there's people who, and I mean, you see it with like every game, right? Where everybody loves to play like armchair game developer and be like, well, like they can just hit the button to export it to, Switch.
Yeah. Switch.exe.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no, it's actually not that easy. I mean, it's definitely easier probably than it's ever been, but it's not a press a button and it's done sort of process. But,
I did want to ask you about working with Epic Games, because they were in the headlines recently.
This week.
Remedy and Playdead and Gen Design, some really big names. Like, I was really shocked that they got Gen Design, who has been kind of radio silent since The Last Guardian came out, and Playdead, games like Inside.
Yeah.
And of course, Remedy is Control and Alan Wake. So a few things. I want to know, what's it like being among such heavy hitters and now in the Epic Games like umbrella family, and what is that? How does that approach work? They come to you with a deal and a package, and do you see it more beneficial than what Steam offers for indie game developers specifically?
Okay, I'll go with the first one.
Lots to unpack right now.
It's an honor to be amongst such great names as Remedy and Playdead. No, but
is that the marketing specialist coming out of you?
No, it's very nice for us being on the Epic Games Store, because it is more of like a curated storefront at this point. So it's a lot easier as an indie dev to have your game stand out, for sure. That is probably the biggest challenge in games, is just like getting people to know about your game. And so the fact that Epic was willing to work with us, and they featured us in their video at the Game Awards, and then when we released, we were featured on the front page for I think a week, and they put out our trailer on YouTube, and they've been super good on social.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry about that. It
Don't
is
worry, don't worry.
9:30 and somebody's ringing the bell right now.
Don't worry.
God, you keep going. I'm gonna mute.
Okay. So it's been great being there, and it's been super helpful on that end. And then the other question was more beneficial than Steam. I think it's kind of hand in hand in that I'm not saying that it's a better than Steam. I mean, like Steam's amount of players is huge, and like obviously there's a huge amount of people that we get all the time talking about wanting to play it on Steam, and I 100% get that. For us, it made sense, I think, to do the Epic deal just because it allowed us kind of like a safety net to make sure, you know, we had an initial success, and that definitely helped, especially in early access. And how that came about was I believe it was we came to them early on with one of our early on demos of just, you know, pitching to different places. Like we pitched to Sony, to Microsoft, to Nintendo. You know, we're always going around showing people stuff off, and Epic very early on was like on board and very interested, and they expressed interest throughout development. And then I don't think the whole thing didn't really all come together until just kind of right before the Game Awards. There was something that was always kind of percolating in the background, but yeah, because we were listed on Steam for a while, and it's still up there because we will be releasing on Steam next year. But yeah, it didn't come together until, you know, kind of just before the Game Awards there. And yeah, we were super excited, and it's been great. Highly recommend, you know, anybody else working with them. They've been super awesome to work with. It's very nice that you just, when you're with Epic, I think the big difference is from an indie studio, especially like an indie who hasn't put anything out on the platform yet, is there's somebody that you can talk to, like a person that you can go to with your questions, and they're super helpful in wanting to support you, because if you succeed, they succeed, right? So it's a nice joint partnership that way.
I think that's where their terms matter the most, because it's a true partnership where they're looking out for the players and the developers of the game. Like they want everyone to win on all sides. And I think that's where they're growing at such a rapid pace, like just acquiring all these new game deals left and right. And I feel like by the time June rolls around, like what would have been the whole E3 season, we'll have so many more of these announcements. And Steam is in a little bit of trouble, I think. Like they have to sort of get at that level at some point.
Yeah, I don't like it's a weird thing, right? It's like at some point when you control all the users to a degree, you can kind of just rest on that a little bit. One thing that I do hope that, you know, however the whole storefront war goes, like it would be great if the one thing that came from this is that if we just all kind of adjusted the shares to be more proportional to the people making the games. If that's what ends up shaking out, then I think that's great for sure.
Yeah. It's tough because for a long time there was no main challenger to what Steam was doing.
No,
it was just it was their domain. It was, if you had games on PC, it was your hub for all of your games on your computer. And here comes Epic saying, you know, we could do this, but do a little bit better and make a sweeter deal for developers. And hey guys, you can court you over here, and it's working. It's really working for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Steam has slowly, actually very quickly, become like when you go to your parents' house and you check their like files on their computer, and just everything's all over the fucking place and nothing makes sense. And it's just like, you have a lot of shit on here, a lot of great memories, a lot of great pictures and videos, but they are everywhere. You have your desktop has 57 different icons and saved web pages, like just nonsense everywhere. But like Epic Games Store,
old ass computer too.
Yeah. Epic Games, to me, I feel like they're not just trying to bolster their lineup in numbers. They're trying to bolster it with quality, and they're trying to highlight that quality as best they can. And I think they do a great job with it. And obviously, their features are still lagging behind what a Steam can offer. But I think that stuff comes with time, obviously. Um,
Yep.
what do you think Steam needs to do really to kind of, I guess, fight back in a way? I guess you could say that like Epic kind of came in and took a little bit of their lunch money. Like how could
Mhm.
Steam continue to stay on top and change their image a little bit?
I do think they're doing like a bunch of things behind the scenes that I don't think like a lot of people necessarily see, because they are more like developer facing, and they're not really like to most people they don't really matter,
not
and
sexy.
they're kind of like, yeah, and they're like very very inside baseball kind of changes that they're making. But like, I mean, one of the things that would be super 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 helpful is just like having, like I said, having somebody that you can talk to, um,
Mm.
a representative to some degree, or somebody where you can at least make sense of the way the store works, because that's like one of the biggest issues for indies. Like if you talk to any indie, or see any indie, bitch about Steam to a degree, it's always about how like there's this mysterious algorithm that everyone has theories about how it works, and it's like, oh, okay, like obviously we know wish list is a huge thing. That's why everyone's always pushing for wish list, because that makes the algorithm favor you more and everything. But it's like having some sort of contact who could at least tell you like, oh yeah, it is good to put out developer updates, like that helps you in the algorithm, or
Right.
this helps you, right? The fact that it is just like a black box where everyone's trying to guess, and it's like, well, if you have this percentage of wish list, then you're going to go up into this upper echelon, and it's a lot of guesswork, and then they'll make a change and everything will change overnight on you. You'll have like, I remember while we were on there for a little bit, like I could see wish lists and everything, and you could see the day that they made a store algorithm change, because we went from having like pretty consistent high level amount of wish list additions to all of a sudden it just like dropped by 50%, and it was like, yep, that was the day that they made the change. And like you could talk to any other dev being like, yep, saw the same thing. And it's just that unknown that I think is very frustrating. So
It sounds like they're using YouTube's algorithm. To some extent.
yeah. I mean, machines, they know best, right? So
But yeah, you were saying, it's to Steven's point, it's like a black hole in a sense, because you can throw a game on there and then it can just totally poof into the void.
yeah.
And you have some really great content that gets lost in the noise that is Steam sometimes.
Personally,
And I mean, like,
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, and when you put a game out on there, and if it does like successful and everything, and if you see a little bit of success, then yeah, like Steam can be freaking awesome, because it pushes things to the top that seem to be resonating with people, which is ultimately how you want it to have to be. But like that initial catching on is difficult.
It would be, I think, a cool thing that they can offer would be a specialist that, like you said, a real person, but a specialist that kind of takes over promotion within Steam, but not on Steam's platform, but like a Steam like social media guru or somebody that could take the game, because you make selling copies is good for them, right? So what if they for a week, maybe the week that you put it on the store, it's not for sale yet, but it's on the store, like they go out and really just blast all over the internet that this game is now out there, and they have algorithms that do the right research. They put it in the right Reddits, they put it in the right whatever it is, message boards and websites and like all this stuff where they have relationships. I'm sure Valve has relationships with tons of outlets out there that could write up stories about a game that was just put in the store, as opposed to putting it all on you and saying, all right, put your thing on our game, on our system, whatever, we're going to take our cut, and whether it dies, it doesn't matter to us, because we're still getting our cut of, we'll get our cut of death. Essentially, if your game dies, we're still going to get some money, and
We're gonna have the flesh out of that in some way.
And it's no skin off our back. But if they cared a little bit and they said, they're taking their whatever percentage, and part of that percentage is they give you a little bit of a product outside of just some place to drag and drop your game. They give you a little bit of a, here's what's dropping, here's what's new to the store to be wish listed. They send out a blast to IGN that has all these games that are kind of similar, like your pixel art new whitelist games of the week, boom,
Yeah.
and here's like 5 games, and then IGN could say, whoa, shit, this Foregone game looks pretty cool, and then they do a write up on it. All of a sudden, a million people get to see that your game just landed on Steam. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's something so simple that such a massive company can do, but they kind of don't have to unless an Epic Game Store comes around and forces their hand.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing because in theory that makes like 100% sense, right? Like this equal partnership, especially at taking 30%, but like the fact of the matter is, unfortunately, like there's just so many games like every week that are being released on the platform that it's so hard, I think, to try and even wrangle all of that up. That's kind of like, I think, what the difficulty with Steam has become, is just that there's so much. It's never been easier to make a game, right? And so it's there's so much on there, and that is kind of one of the things that like Epic is doing, like you were saying. Epic has those kind of things in place. Like I said, when we released the game, it went, they blasted it everywhere for us. They put us on the front. They they have a bunch of influencers on there, and they know what kind of games they like, and so they were like, here's a list of the people that we have relationships with, and we think it'd be good for them to get a copy of the game if you're cool with that. And it was like 100%, yeah. And so they are kind of offering that kind of support over there. So
do they
consider
great themselves publishers of the game when it's on the Epic Game Store?
It's just the store. So basically what the whole announcement they made this week was like, that's the publishing arm of Epic. So like, I assume when Remedy's game, when Playdead's game, when they all come out on the Epic store, under publisher, it would say Epic Games. And gotcha. I imagine when it goes to all the other platforms, it'll say Epic Games. But for instance, if you look at ours on there, we're the publisher, developer, because it's all independently owned, and it'll say the same thing on other platforms as well.
Man, Steam was like the first battle royale game. Now I think about it.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
So how'd you get involved making video games and being a part of video games?
Wow, there's a story. So I went to school for chemical engineering, and I did that for 5 years, I think my school was. I worked in a bunch of different industries. I worked in like food, I worked in pharmaceutical, I worked in oil and gas. I worked all over the place, getting different experience through co-ops, and then some jobs outside of school afterwards. And like, I hated it. I hated every moment of it. I never liked school. It was just like, I like science. I was good at math and science. And so it was like, oh, engineering makes sense. They make a lot of money. They're stable jobs. So go do that. And because when you're in high school, it's like, oh, you can be an engineer, a doctor. You don't really know all the jobs that are out there, I find. But like, I always loved video games, and like, I was just like, all I want to do is work in video games. And I really like the business side of things. Like, whenever I could take electives in school, I usually took either business or like public speaking or stuff like that. And so when I was working for Maple Leaf Foods, I was just like, came home one day and I was like, I'm going back to school for marketing. I can't do this anymore. And so I enrolled, got a degree there in marketing. And then about like a month outside of it, I got a job with Big Blue Bubble. And I've been working here now for 3.5 years. So it's been pretty awesome. It was definitely not a conventional way, which is why whenever I talk to people about like, hey, just because you've gone down one path or go down one path does not mean you can't, make an about turn. Like it's a long life you're gonna live. You might as well be doing something that you actually like. And working in video games, it's very nice to like, like I go to work and I'm working on things that like I actually am like very proud of and actually appreciate. Whereas like when I was working for Maple Leaf Foods, it was like, I don't care about hot dogs. Like you buy the hot dog, don't buy the hot dog. Doesn't matter to me. Whatever.
Is a hot dog a sandwich? Is the question.
Yeah. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I would say no. I mean, I guess by technical standards, yeah, maybe, but it's a hot dog. So yeah, that's kind of my pathway.
Yeah, it's like a standard path for most developers,
Yeah.
like chemical engineering, pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did a bunch of crazy stuff.
Michael, we have a question from Mikey Kirsch over on our Discord, which you can join by going to patreon.com/NDS podcast listener, and you can support us at any monetary tier, and you get into our VIP Discord. You can chat with us and our indie dev friends and all that fun stuff. It's a great place to get together, play games, and talk about games and all that other great stuff. So Mike Hirsch says, there's clearly a trend in the indie scene toward more roguelike Dead Cell style games. What do you hope to do to differentiate yourself from the other games? So you kind of already spoke about this, but maybe give him an answer directly, a succinct answer like, oh, you just kind of, you're up there on the podium and you have a couple of seconds to answer the question.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the main key for us to differentiate it from being like a roguelite and roguelike is that we don't have the permanent death. So like when you die, you're not losing all of your progress. You're not going back to the very beginning of the game. You maintain any skills that you've upgraded. You maintain your weapons. So it's not, I guess, as demoralizing when you lose. And then also it is just like about constantly getting new cool loot. So, yeah.
What kind of loot are we talking about?
Give
our listeners like what are we expecting? Is it a Diablo like? There's like 50,000 different types of helmets that you're gonna chuck on your bean, and it's gonna give you like a +1, and the other one's like a +1-1 or +1.1, or how deep
right now.
Yeah, so right now we have a bunch of different melee weapons because you always get one melee and one ranged weapon. So we have a bunch of those that are dropping. They're different tiers, and yes, kind of like you're saying, it's like there is that random roll of like, oh, this one has plus crit damage, and this one hits faster, and this one has higher DPS. So it is like if you have a very specific build you want to go for, then you can grind all you want to try and get those specific ones. And then we also have some armor. And I think there's 3 pieces of armor right now. And then something else that is coming is special like boss armor sets that you can collect from beating bosses. So when you defeat them, you would get a certain piece, and then you'd be able to go back and defeat them again to get the whole set and all that.
See, that's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you can replay. You can currently in the game right now. You can go back and fight the bosses as many times as you want because they always drop good loot, and it's fun to have a boss fight as well.
Because my main thing with that is like the gear sort of loses a sense of like that special quality when it's like, again, like here's 20 of the same helmet, but it's like with a slight modifier to it. But having like the boss armor, at least there's that to feel like hey, there's unique things in the game you can find.
Yes, the idea is to have kind of like unique ones, and then also having they're not in right now, but the idea is to have all the weapons to have like a sort of like epic tier thing that differentiates them as well.
The ultimate form.
Yes, exactly. So, which would be very rare drops, but something to get excited about when you do get it.
Hell yeah.
All right, Michael, it's time to get into our rapid fire questions. I hope you're ready because I'm going to hit you with one of the strongest questions right out of the gate, and this will define what kind of person you are inside and outside. Okay. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Hell yeah, that's a Canadian creation. Gotta represent the pineapple on pizza.
This is rigged. This is a rigged question. All right, so I guess I can come back with one of our second most common questions here on the segment. You can say it's a bit of a foregone conclusion. Shit! I got one in. Would you rather have the power of flight or invisibility?
Flight. I think it's just you just go anywhere you want. It's awesome. And I was just saying the other day, I was looking at some birds, and I said to my wife, I'm like, "What if we could fly? Wouldn't that be cool?"
Now here's a Canadian question for you.
Okay.
And I have a answer to this, believe it or not.
Okay.
Labatt Blue or Molson?
Ooh, well, technically I should say Labatt Blue because Labatt is from London, Ontario. So I should say them. But I mean, like if it was actually down to the two, I'd probably choose Molson Canadian.
I'm a Labatt
Because I am
guy.
Canadian.
I love Labatt Blue. I love it.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't know why. I just love it. I think it's tasty.
Did you know that's why the Blue Jays are called the Blue Jays?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because when they were formed, they were owned by Labatt's, and they called them the Blue Jays, hoping everyone would call them the Blues, and that they'd be reminded of Labatt Blue. But everyone calls them the Jays.
That backfired.
Didn't turn out. There you go. Fun Canadian facts for you.
All right, I have a little bit of a question involving Canada.
Yeah.
What's more Canadian, to chug a pint of maple syrup, or to ride your moose down the street?
Now,
Well, if it was
shit. I'm sorry. I know you cannot go near a moose. Those fuckers will kill you.
I was gonna say, moose are no joking matter. They're one of like the highest death causes in Newfoundland. They're very dangerous.
That's the most Canadian thing.
If you hit a moose, in a car, the moose doesn't die, but you do. They are literally like a brick wall. And but I will have to say, chugging a gallon of maple syrup, because God, maple syrup is so good. I was just talking about it the other day on Twitter. I was like, man, what would we do without maple syrup? Put on anything, it's delicious.
It's true. It's very true. All right, so you got soda or beer, doesn't matter. Can or bottle?
I'm a can guy. I always have been. I mean, like the bottle is cool, but like can's just so easy to carry around. You don't have to worry about it dropping and smashing. I'm can.
What adjective best describes you when you're drunk?
Oh, well, there's one or two that I would say. I think my friends would say punchy, but not like in the like I'm gonna fight you. I do this thing when I'm like really in the zone. I start like kind of dancing, and I don't know if you remember the Ludacris video from like forever ago where he has these giant arms that he punches with.
Yes.
I just start doing the kind of dance to that, and I just kind of like give little punches to people. So I will say punchy, but not in an aggressive way, in a dancey way.
Non-violent punchy, the most another
Yes.
Canadian answer.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's see. Who's your hockey team?
Oh, Toronto Maple Leafs. They let me down all the time, but like
yeah, well,
I love them.
What do you find yourself thinking about when you're sitting alone in your car?
Oh. Well, when I'm sitting alone in my car, what do we usually think about? Sometimes I'll talk to myself and pretend I have like my own radio show. That's an occasional thing. That's if I'm truly bored, and I'll talk about like, oh, look at there's a Canadian goose out there. I don't know, like that's
This
one
just
of the things
in.
yeah, it's definitely if I'm like pure boredom. But otherwise, I don't know. Sometimes I think about food a lot. I'm just like, well, what am I gonna eat next?
That's good. It's not I'm gonna go fuck with that moose over there.
Yeah, exactly. Don't fuck with the moose.
And don't call a moose an elk. They don't like that.
no.
All right, paperclip or stapler?
I think stapler. It's just more dependable. It might hurt you, but it's more dependable.
I don't like the permanence. I don't like the permanence of a stain. I feel like once you pierce the paper, it's ruined.
So you must be a pencil versus pen then.
Actually, I go the opposite. I go with those Sharpie pens. I go
Oh.
with those really inky
Wow.
types. I like those for some reason. No, I just throw the whole paper out. If I fuck up, I just rip the whole thing out of the book and just chuck it right in the trash.
What is your favorite 90s jam?
Favorite 90s jam?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say it's probably got to be Blink 182 jam. I'm a very big Blink 182 fan. But what would be my favorite one? I'm going to have to go with... Oh my God. This is so difficult. There's so many...
It's karaoke night.
I know. Oh, if it's karaoke night, I don't know if I'm saying... Oh, if it's karaoke night, Backstreet Boys is 2000s. I don't think it's 90s, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I go back.
No, I think they were around in the 90s. I feel like
I think they might be like
99. Yeah.
But in this case, I'm just gonna go with all of Anima of State. I'll just say that.
That's a good one.
So, Andy, I want to give you a little insight into what Steven's late 90s were like. I owned a tiny little silver boombox. It had a CD player on it and everything, right? Mm-hmm. And the summer of 1997, okay, this is when it was. It was the summer of 97. I'll never forget it. Sitting outside in the stoop, I got the CD player, and I just got a hot CD. I will literally give you any one of my games on my shelf if you could tell me what CD it was that I was playing all summer in summer of 1997.
Yeah, I don't know. Pearl Jam? I don't know.
Close. You were very close.
Soundgarden?
No. Another jam. Space Jam soundtrack.
Oh my God, I was right there. I was one word away.
Let me tell you.
You were very close.
Can you break a game in half and give it to me?
So when you say 90s jam, I instantly think of the song I danced to all summer of 97 as a 10-year-old. Everybody get up, it's time to jam now. We got a real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. That song. I went nuts for that song in 1997, but it's not about me. It's about Michael. So let's give him his next question. Waffles or pancakes?
Oh, easy decision. Pancakes, man. Ooh. I don't get the love for waffles. I don't get it.
They're not
pancakes so fluffy
enough. Yeah. There's no bite to a waffle.
The syrup goes into the pancake and you just have like a perfect vessel for syrup.
Or you could be like, neither, just chug the syrup.
Yeah, exactly.
Drink syrup, eat butter.
I will admit that I've definitely done a thing where it's like, ooh, a little syrup there. Get a little bit extra there.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Do you as a side question, do you put syrup on your first pancake and then as you eat it, you put more to the next pancake? Or do you put between each layer of pancake its own syrup coating?
Got to layer it up. So you go first pancake, syrup, then pancake, syrup, then pancake, syrup. And then you let it, because then it's getting it from the bottom and top on each pancake.
Mm. As you go along, more syrup, obviously.
Yes, exactly.
Diabetes intensifies.
Of course.
Hey, I mean,
all right. So
it's good though.
You are a new addition to the crayon box. What color would you be and why?
I would be Michael Blue because blue is my favorite color. And I just love, like, it'd be like slightly off royal blue because I love royal blue, but maybe like let's tend a bit to navy. I think that's a nice new color.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good
Michael Blue
color choice. Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. If you were told you can only go to one more concert for the rest of your life, it's one concert, it's the last concert. Who's headlining and who's opening?
Oh, wow. In this case, I think I would have to go with who's headlining and who's opening. Okay, so for the headliner, I'm probably going to say Spoon.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely love that band. Have seen them multiple times, and they're just so good live as well. I love when you see a band, you're like, oh my God, they sound just like they do on the album. And then, which is not always the case. And then for opening, I think for like sentimental reasons, I'll have Blink 182 open it up.
Hell yeah.
Just only play the hits. I don't want to hear any of the new stuff.
Yeah, the new stuff is garbage.
Yeah.
All right. A penguin walks through your door right now, and he's wearing a sombrero.
Mm-hmm.
What do you ask it?
I say, where's the tacos? Let's get the siesta going.
Mine would
ready
be,
to
how did
party.
you get past the dog?
Yes.
Is that what you were barking about?
What have
Yeah,
you done
this-
with my dog?
This penguin's clearly ready to party. He's got his sombrero ready. We're having a little taco fest. That's great.
If you could change one physical attribute about yourself, what would it be?
Oh, I'm a very hairy person. So I think I would have to say that.
Take it out of some places we don't want it and put it in places we want it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, my hair at the top's good right now, but it's a constant fear that I've always been like, my entire life, it's like, oh, I'm not going to have hair by the time I'm 30, but it's holding strong. So, if we could reduce the other hair and keep this hair and this hair, that'd be great.
Mine started falling out rapidly at 30, like exactly 30.
Yeah.
It was like, goodbye, skull. It was nice knowing you. And now I'm just so thin up there. It's scary. I hate it.
It's more of a
Yeah,
migration, though, to the back. That's how it works.
No,
Yeah,
I've always
exactly.
had back hair from fucking high
They
school. I've had
colonize the
stupid
back and the
hair.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoulder. I got the shoulder hairs, and then there's so many people who say like, "You have hair on your shoulders." It's like, yeah, it's a normal thing, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very normal thing. Just ask Carl from fucking Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It's there,
Yeah.
okay? That's me. When you look at him, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah, that's what I am.
So, yeah,
That's
if I could change one thing.
that's you in a couple of years, Steven. That's like your trajectory.
No
I get your
freaking
wife
way.
And then get your wife beater. Well, I didn't want to ask Michael, what do you think people notice most about you? But it's obviously the
Shoulder
infinite
hair.
sweater that you have on your body.
Oh yes, I've heard many sweater jokes.
So we'll go with this. What's the first thing you grab for in the morning?
First thing I grab for in the morning, trying to visualize getting up out of bed. I mean, it's probably my phone that I honestly grab. I grab my phone and then I take it to the shower and I listen to my morning podcast, which is the Daily currently, and get my day started.
All right.
What is the first award you could think you have ever been given?
First award I was ever given, it would probably be first one that I can think of. I'm sure I got some dumb "You're a Smart Kid" award in school or something, but I remember at like a very young age getting the award for the hardest slap shot. At the end of the hockey season, and that was the season where I took a slap shot and I hit a dude's arm and broke his arm.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah.
I think you are the most Canadian thing that ever existed.
Yes, it was a crowning achievement of mine, breaking a child's arm with my slap shot.
Oh man.
All right.
All right, Andy. Let's give you one more question, then I'll ask the final.
All right.
Sounds good.
Is it okay to sleep with your socks on?
I mean, if that floats your boat, sure. I would never do it. I mean, I feel like my feet would be too sweaty. I like to be a burrito. I just wrap myself up perfectly in a duvet, and I'm good to go.
All right, Michael.
Sounds
It's
super
time for the most revealing question. You're used to getting asked a bunch of questions. You probably have some sort of memorized script when it comes to specific types of questions. But there's nothing that can prepare you for the question we are about to ask you, unless, of course, you listen to previous episodes, in which case you know what's coming. This is probably the most important question you could ever be asked. In this time of COVID-19, people are just falling by the wayside. Countries are locked down. The world is essentially locked down. Nobody can make any money. Nobody can spend any money. It's just pandemonium. This is the most important question to be asked out of all of this. It's not, will I get ventilators? It's not, will I get COVID? It's none of that. this is the most important question, and I hope you take it as equally seriously as I'm telling you this question.
I feel like I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire right now, and I'm going for the $1 million.
Who wants to be a millionaire?
All right.
In a sense, it is.
Yeah.
In a sense, yes, it is. All right, here it goes. Let's see, I gotta wet my whistle. Hold on. Okay. Andy or Steven?
Oh wow, dang, that is a tough question. Unfortunately, I feel like I have an out here in that, Steven and I, we have this connection of know his family, of good friends with the family.
Indeed.
So I think, unfortunately, Andy, I'm gonna have to choose Steven this time.
This is
due
the
to
only
our
time.
deep ties of
Yes.
Amherstburg.
Listen, I've been shot down before many a time. On this question, I'm used to it. But it hurts a little less this time around. Just a little.
You're
less.
both great. You're both great. I enjoyed thoroughly talking with both of you, of course.
That is it. That does it. We're at the end of the show. If you want to follow us on social media, you could do so. We're at NDS Podcast. I am at Batchild27. Andy's at PantSky. And our Facebook group is facebook.com/group/Dual Screens Podcasts. All right, Michael, tell everybody, give everybody the last pitch. Where can everybody find you and everything you do and everything about Foregone?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at MPM Hammond, which is my Michael Paul Mackenzie Hammond is my full name. And then you can find everything about the game at Foregone Game, basically on any social platform of your choosing, including Discord, which is a very nice sort of tight-knit community where we're trying to get feedback. So if you're playing the game, we'd love to have you there and, get your honest feedback. And if you're not playing the game, well, sometimes we do little giveaways in there. So maybe you could get the game.
Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. Folks, if you want to watch us stream, we're at twitch.tv/dual screen streams. If you want to watch our videos, we're at youtube.com/dual screens TV. Not dual screens, because that's another people who have like 26,000 friggin' subscribers and like 30 videos. But for some reason, they're up there and they get thousands and thousands.
That one video hit it off.
We finally hit 100 subs, and let me tell you, it is a great feeling. I mean, YouTube, am I right?
Yeah.
We have that. What color plaque do you think 100 subs is? Like, if there was any color for that, what would that be? Like, what could we hang on our wall for that? Like, just a vomit green plaque.
What makes
on the
like
Vomit green.
what's that fake gold that makes your skin turn green?
That's silver.
I like it. I like it.
Aluminum or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
tinfoil. We got our
Tungsten.
tinfoil plaque.
Yes, I was gonna say if I had to choose something, I would imagine it would be tin. That seems like the logical
It's
choice.
an actual tin can with a YouTube logo on it. It says just,
Yeah.
This is stop. Please stop.
You did it.
Your friends
Congratulations.
at YouTube.
So yeah, listeners, go to youtube.com/dual screens TV, DUEL screens TV, and give us your subscription. It will help us out tremendously. Our theme song, Retro Chatter, is by Brad Parsons at Train Sound Studio. Andrew Douglas does our character cartoon art, and Matt Murray does a lot of our logos and other banners and stuff like that. So thank you to gentlemans. Again, if you want to support us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/NDS podcast. You can support us for as little as $1, get you a bonus episode, get you in our VIP Discord, and let you vote on the topic for the bonus episode as well. We do have a store up right now on dualscreens.com/store. Takes you to our Teespring. We got a bunch of t-shirts up there and all sorts of other fun stuff. And that's it. That's going to bring us to the end. Andy, is there anything you want to tell the kids before we go?
I love you all. Stay safe. Stop the spread. And play some games. Play all the games and check out Foregone because it's an amazing ass game.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Michael. It has been fantastic. But before we go, I have an announcement.
Oh, this is unscripted.
Ladies and gentlemen, as of this Monday, I am officially a video game developer.
Whoa! Congratulations.
Yes, indeed. I have. I don't know if I'm allowed to announce everything. I know I can't announce what I'm working on, but
I have been contacted by a very good friend of the show, James Dean of MegaCat Studios. He needed some help with various things, with a bunch of different games, and I'm sort of just kind of helping him with a bunch of things. So it's not, I don't have an official title just yet, but I have done official dev work for video games. So now I am officially a video game developer. So Andy, you will interview me soon. When all of our guests cancel on us in 1 week, that's our backup. You just interview me. But I want to thank all of our listeners for everything you've done for us. Thank you so much. Everybody, please be safe. Thank you, MegaCat Studios. We love you very much. Go play all their games. They're fantastic. Bite the Bullet is out right now. Don't worry. I am not doing anything with that game, so it's not a shill. But I do love you all. Thank you very much. In this trying time where, yes, I did actually lose my job. I lost my job on Friday, and then Monday. Actually, it was Friday afternoon that James reached out to me, but it was Monday that it was made official. So, one door closes, another one opens. So please, out there, if you're having a hard time, try and stay positive. Come join our community on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. You don't necessarily have to buy into do a Patreon to be a part of a tight-knit community. We do love everybody that follows us. We have a great conversation, and we're here for you. This is a great place to hang out. So once again, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. And as always, please be excellent to each other.